Truth. Unforbidden. Truth.
All right, so the next prisoner that I'd like to speak about is John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown, and everybody knows about Gacy. So could you just give a little brief rundown about Gacy, then show a couple artifacts, and then we can talk about how Gacy has impacted the murderabilia community ever since his arrest, let alone to this day.
Yeah, sounds good. So John Wayne Gacy, everyone knows Gacy. And one thing that I want to, say for sure is I'm not an expert at all on any of the subject matter. Everything I know is the same that everyone else knows by watching documentaries and movies and everything else. So I never claimed to be an expert, but here we go. So John Wayne Gacy was born on March 17th of 1942 and died on May 10th of 1994. Gacy was one hell of a criminal. And everyone knows that he was a chameleon. He could be your best friend and turn around and be burying people under his crawl space. So he killed at least 33 boys and young men. And let's just say, let's see. So let's fast forward, because we know that he hit his head as a kid, and a lot of people say that might have had a impact on his brain chemistry. That's been something that has been said over and over again with serial killers, that in their adolescence they have an injury to their head. Gacy, if I remember correctly, it had to do with a swing set or something, where he hit his head, and then he had seizures, and he kind of became a hermit after that. And his dad was not happy with that. His dad named him after John Wayne, So his dad was a very strict, very, I don't even know if I would say strict. He was an alcoholic. And from what I have always heard, that when he got home, he just drank himself to supper and then went to bed. And if anyone got in his way, it was an ass whooping, because he was not a very nice guy. But we'll fast forward into 1968. So Gacy ended up moving to Waterloo, Iowa. And what took him there was his first wife. He married, her father owned, I think it was 3 KFC food chains. And while he was there in 1968, he ended up sodomizing a teenage boy and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. But because he was such a likable guy, he kind of wooed his way right on out the door after serving only 18 months. While he was there, he did all types of programs to try to better the prison, to make their yards better, to make everything better. And that's kind of like the underlining definition of how he was. He was in the chapter of the JCs and was very active with all types of charity events. And so given all that, he a very likable guy. And that takes us all the way to, while in Iowa, his first victim was, let me go back on that. So he ended up, him and his wife, they divorced. He was like, the hell with this, in Iowa. He moved back to Chicago, which is where he started to kind of unravel. his first murder victim was in 1972 by a guy named Tim McCoy. Gacy was, he had his contracting business, and I don't want to just talk about it because everyone already knows all this, but he had no problems killing guys that worked for him too. But he ended up killing Tim McCoy. He ended up marrying his second wife, Carol Hoff, in July 1st of 1972. And then from there on, she realized he's weird as hell. She had enough of him. She took off. His mother lived with him up until they got married. And then right before they got married, his mom moved out. So now he's just like by himself and has all this endless time and all these crazy sadistic thoughts. So during all this time, he also dressed as a clown, did charitable events, went to hospitals for sick kids and stuff. And what the really crazy part of it was that, once he was apprehended and once they dug more into his whole case, he said that he had two different personalities, and they came out in his clown personas, which was Patches being the good version and Pogo being the bad. But his last victim, which was the most important, really, was Rob Peast, who disappeared on December 11th, 1978, after talking to Gacy about a job at the Nissan pharmacy in Des Plaines, Illinois. And his mother was waiting in the car for him. It was her birthday. He didn't come back. And then that is what made everything fall apart for John Wayne Gacy, because everyone said, well, he was with this guy named Gacy, And so they started the surveillance, and he, of course, was cocky, inviting cops into his place and serving them meals and everything else. They had to follow him, so he'd go to bars, buy them drinks. And in the process of him inviting them in for one of those meals, one of them went to the bathroom, the heat kicked on, he could smell death underneath the house. And so at that point, he took off, admitted everything to his lawyer. He was arrested and convicted. And then afterwards, he recanted, and then he said he was innocent all the way up to his death. He spent 14 years in Maynard prison in Illinois. And when he died, his last words were "kiss my ass." He had a botched execution. They messed up in it, and it actually took him 18 minutes to die, which they said would have been horrific for anyone, but it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, to be honest. So I'm not an advocate I'm not a big fan of the death penalty, but I definitely think in John Wayne Gacy's case, he was one that I don't feel bad about how he got it. So with that being said, we will take a look at some John Wayne Gacy items, and we'll talk about them a little bit. So the first one, let me flip this around. The first one, which is really significant, is a 2-page letter that he wrote to Rick Statton, who was his art dealer while he was in prison. And this piece, you see, it's really big. I don't normally try to I'm not a fan of framing multiple page letters. They take up a lot of space, but this one I thought was pretty significant, and I added a couple of things to it, which I think made it a little bit cooler. So this is in August 5th of 1991. And Rick, this is him writing to Rick, says, and I bought this straight from Rick several years ago, it was quite a few years ago, but says, "Hi ho again, Rick." He said hi ho a lot, referring to the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And his obsession with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was that was the first movie he ever saw in the theater. His mom took him to go see Snow White, and he fell in love with the movie. and he had a weird fixation on the Snow White and the dwarves all the way up until his death. But anyway, this says, hey, in looking over your list, just how are the people able to get a hold of you? You have no address or phone number on your sheet. I can't believe you'd put out a list without that information. In any case, I don't know if you will get it, but I will try sending the way I think that the list for the back page of the book should be, and you can set it any way you want it. I put the small skull clown, which you can use. Listen, for the book, it needs an 8.5 by 11 sheet, but I like your type, so do it that way. The same with the signature birds. Either the way I have it typed or use it the way you have it laid out, or both will work. All of my prices will guarantee you making at least $20 or higher, and I will adjust my price to you. The Elvis costs $70 each, and the new brown tone will cost you $80. As you can see, I looked out for you on both. The high hose 1984, 1986, and 1988 will all cost you $60 each now. So that will take care of my taking the prices down. High ho 90 will cost $80. So you see we can work together, and the new ones will get the higher markups. Now to your ordering information, Rick, why add problems and cost? Stay away from phone contact. Phone is not cheap. We both know that. If you want to give the phone number, think you still have to wait for a check. If you don't give it, you avoid tying up your time. Keep it simple and stupid. Why did you not want cash? I would have taken it. As many can't get to banks or get money orders, you cut out some people. Just a thought. You decide, hey, if they send cash and you don't get it, then it's their loss, not yours. By staying away from the phone when you're out or they have to wait for an order, use postcards. They're a lot cheaper again. Next, never promise early delivery. What happens during the holidays? Hey, you send it out and then you send it out as fast as you can, right? So none of that is needed. Your use of Grindhouse graphics is fine, but I notice that I put your full name above it because that's where the checks have to go. You wanted to mention it, but the more you say, the more your chance to confuse them. Unless you're going to open an account under the logo because you're asking them to write the name by using it, unless you use it that way, I did it at the top. Who are they going to order from? The same name they make the check to? You think about it as you do not want to confuse the person interested. There is no need not to contact me, and don't use it. Why? Because the entire book already tells them my address. So you keep my name away from the art list and then saying I am the artist. You see how I laid it out for you? Keep in mind, I'm also showing them that they are contacting by putting your name and the logo right at the top. That's the first thing that they are going to read. So as they know this is coming from you right from your start, always think of the persons you're dealing with as not being as smart as you, so you can keep it simple for them and avoid mistakes and confusion. Like I said, once you got a check, you can send postcards if you're out or a delay. Why use the phone? that alone will eat up profit in the cutback. As they start to move, the system will catch on, just like I did all my mail acknowledge orders, asking questions, etc. Hey, I have to tell you, I have read over your list 3 times before I saw what I missed. The no phone number, no address to order. That you will always want on the same page, as once they get a list and put it aside, it's easier to find the one sheet than looking for an envelope with the address on it. Did you know that? Please let me know as soon as possible that you got the copy of the list. Let's see. And so I know that you got it. And also thanks for a record Christ information. Well, now I hope that this is out and the finished book listing on the 9x11, as I will be putting together Mr. Gacy 2 within the next 2 weeks and send it off for you for the New York publisher and printer. You can use the 8.5 by 14 for your send out, but why if you can get it on the same as what you want in the book? That is the way that way it shows you're connected with the book. Think about it. Bye for now. Regards, John. Sorry, that was a long letter, but it just shows his business aspect and his controlling aspect. You know, he's kind of talking down and just sounds like a dick, you know. And then you can see here, I'll try to zoom in pretty good, but this one was for, they call him Mr. Gacy, which was, I think, the first publication that he was really a part of, you know. And this is a list of his paintings that this is the way he wanted it laid out to be sold in the back of the book. A Pogo the Clown 14 by 18 with free autograph photo was $99 back then. So pretty crazy stuff. Down here is an article from Playboy magazine that Rick did regarding John Wayne Gacy. And I always thought that was kind of cool. I wanted to cut it out, stick it with the painting, with the letter. And then this is a totally separate deal. This is just a note that he left that he sent to someone, but I've always thought these were super interesting just because of the skull clown up on the right side. Very creepy to get that from a serial killer. And his letters are kind of, he was a smart guy. He wasn't the best at spelling, and his words jumbled a lot. His sentences, a lot of it didn't make sense. He was kind of all over the place, kind of like how Speck was, just a way smarter version. So with all that being said, we'll get into looking at some of his paintings. So this is the iconic Pogo the Clown. This was done in 14 by 18. He did several of them in 16 by 20, but the most common is this one right here, the 14 by 18. He has a personal message on the back, which I might be able to get to you real quick. Hold on. I leave this one open in the back so that I can look at it as needed if I ever feel the need to. This says, enjoy the painting as much as I enjoy doing it for you. Best wishes, John Wayne Gacy. This one is label Pogo the Clown, John Wayne Gacy, oil painting, 0165-116. So he's saying that is his 1065th overall painting and his 116th Pogo that he created. So, all about his numbers game, Andrew. So, but there's probably quite a bit of people out there that wouldn't know, so it's kind of cool. Some knowledge on Gacy paintings. This is one of his very popular high hoes. This one is a high ho by the Campfire. This is an earlier one. I bought this from a collector that had got it from a guy named what was his name? Trip something. Can't remember his last name. But he's a really cool collector. And if I'm not mistaken, he got this directly from Gacy, and somewhere between me getting it and him selling it, it did have the original paperwork that came with it, like the original receipt that Gacy had sent him. But I don't have that. But this is kind of an older one. It's done on an old school Dick Blick, which these are not as common. His most common is the Fredericks canvases, but this one is a high ho around the Campfire oil 2032 number 50. So they always said that, how true it is, but they say that on the high ho series he only did 50 of each one, and that's number 50. So technically it should have been his last one, but is it? Probably not. He probably did more than that, because he was all about making money while he was in jail. So we just looked at the Pogo the Clown, and right here we have the opposite of the Pogo, which is the patches. And this one's framed really good. I have it in museum glass. This one, he doesn't have a personal message on the back. Sorry for the glare because of the glass, but you can get the idea. This is a really solid piece of Gacy art. The trees are kind of, you can tell the age in them, which kind of sucks, but it is as protected as it can be. So, I mean, it'll hold up, but the impasto style that he used, there's painters in the past that have used that same style of the raised paintings, the raised paint on the paintings. Let me see if I can show what I'm talking about. If you look right there, you can see how it's raised. He really liked accenting with that, especially on these clown paintings. But even in the high hos and stuff, he would really glob it on. And some parts, like you see in the fire, if I can turn it the right way so that you can see that it's raised, he really took a liking to that, which is kind of funny, because I think in his eyes, he was like this Picasso. But the high hos, the reason I've always liked them is because you can tell they took a lot of time. And I've always heard that his bird series he had help with on creating those. So if you buy a birds painting, there's a good chance that he just signed it. But
by another killer at that, Andrew Cocorellis from Chicago Ripper.
Right. So I'd always heard that, but I do know that a lot of his stuff is extremely consistent. So as a painter, you can kind of tell when things are repetitive in a painter's style. That's what makes a painter have a style. So a lot of the stuff that you see that's created by Gacy, in the art aspect, you can tell was created by Gacy. A lot of this in here, if you see these repetitive motions that are in the bushes, those are created with a fan brush. And he never really mastered like painting a bush. You cannot have parallel lines like that. It just doesn't work out that way. Same in trees. If you just stay going across in a line like this, that's not how a tree looks. So stuff like that, you can tell for sure was done by him, just that repetitive motion in the consistency of the paint. This right here is one of my personal favorites, and it took me forever to get one, but I got one this last year. I had one a long time ago and I sold it, and like how everything is. So back when I first started buying Gacy paintings, you can get them for like $800, and I sold the one I had, and then I deeply regretted it, and it took me a long time to get another one. So I plan on holding on to this one. I think most people that buy Gacy's now are kind of in that same boat. Like, yeah, if I'm buying a Gacy painting, I'm probably going to hold on to it just because, 5-10 years from now, you won't be able to afford them anymore, But this is his Skull Clown. I think it's like the coolest one he did. And I know it's really morbid and crazy, but this kind of is like the poster child of punk rock, It was very, very prominent in bands using it and stuff back in the 90s. And on the back, it says, "Enjoy Skull Clown as much as I enjoy doing it for you. Best wishes, John Wayne Gacy." This one is Skull Clown oil 1624-117. It's just a really, really well thought out painting, and it's actually executed really well. It's done good. I don't know if you know this, Andrew, but the actual the texture of it, the way that he created that was he would do the painting as a solid, and before he went and put in all of these dark lines in the skull, he would, and the lines in the hat and in the bib right here, or whatever you want to call that, the ruffles, he would take a piece of saran wrap and ball it up, and he would blot it, and that's what gives it that crazy look, that patina look that like a skull has. But I found that out from Robert Webb. He's the one that told me that. He was a pen pal with Gacy, and he has a Skull Clown that Gacy did for him. But he was the one that told me that when he would paint it as a solid, and then he would take that saran wrap and do all that blotting on there to give it that weird, crazy look. And then he would go back in and simply put those simple lines in there. And that's another thing that's really crazy about Gacy art, is the simplicity of it. Everything's always really bold lines. His shading, he didn't really shade, everything's just a bold line with bold color. The same with the dwarves and stuff. He attempted to do a little bit more of shade work in this, but like if you look at Pogo, the simplicity of it, I think, says a lot. I think it says a lot about the mind of him too. That it's just a lot going on there, and there's plenty that could be studied by this, I'm sure. But the simplicity is always one of the weirdest parts. Matthew Aaron had said in a documentary that Gacy is like any other really well-known artist, where when you walk in a room, you know a Gacy right away, and that says something, that you can tell their artwork right away. And actually with the high hose, I recreated some, but when I recreated them, I made Doc be Pogo the Clown, and it was just something that I came up with. I thought it'd be neat I redid the winter scene, the mine scene, and the spring scene, and I redid them and made Doc be Pogo. And I tried my best to kind of recreate what Gacy had done. It was kind of a neat experiment, and sold them. And I made sure that on the back I wrote on them, not a real Gacy painting, because I could see someone getting one and then trying to pawn it off as a legit Gacy painting, because they are very, 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 very replicated, and people try to sell them off as originals. And you know as well as I do, they get better at it. I feel like in the last 3 or 4 years, it used to be that a fake Gacy was very easy to notice, and I feel like in the last 2 or 3 years, they've gotten pretty good. As far as I feel like I've seen some that even have the old Fredericks canvas, uh, that to me personally, the signature looks completely phony. Sometimes the numbering or even the labels, the names of the paintings are not correct. Um, and and Gacy was real consistent on that. If he wasn't doing a custom piece for someone, then you're gonna get whatever you buy. You buy a fucking skull clown, it's gonna be skull. It's gonna be titled skull clown. And I feel like in the last couple of years, three years or so, I've seen a lot of stuff pop up that I'm like, I wouldn't buy that. And it's another reason why I don't really buy them anymore, because I feel like during the times that I was buying Gacy paintings, there wasn't really a whole lot of that. The ones that were fake were like really obvious, and the ones that were real, I mean, you knew. And so now, I am beyond my days of collecting Gacy paintings. Most of the time, if someone was to ask me if I wanted to buy one, I just pass it up, because for one, they're expensive, and another is like you just don't know who to trust anymore. So the last thing I'll show you on here is the guy I told you that made the 3D printed crime scenes for me. He did this one of the Gacy house, which this was one of his first ones. I had him replicate for me, which I thought turned out pretty cool. It's real simple on the front, kind of like how Gacy's old house was. And you can't really see very well right there, but if you look in there, he's in there, and there's a dude on the couch with him. So he put these, you can put a light in here, like a night light, and these rooms have a whole little scene in them, which is pretty cool. And the dude, I mean, it was like $40. I couldn't pass it up. So anyway, I think that probably gives you a pretty well-rounded. I don't know if, I hope we covered everything, Andrew, that you kind of wanted to try to cover in your podcast or on your Zoom.
Oh yeah, you definitely did. I mean, most everybody listening, if not everybody, knows about the John Wayne Gacy case. So it's more, showing off a little bit of artifacts and giving a little brief history, which you gave a rundown about, and the fakes as well. That like you were speaking about, the only way you can really, I so think that you can avoid buying a fake Gacy is knowing who has that exact painting, with the serial number that's on the back, because they're so good these days.
Yeah.
You would think that you're buying a real Gacy and display it, and if you wouldn't know unless somebody has the other serial number that's actually the real one, from way back when.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And it's funny because it seemed like, back like 2014, 15, there was this big boom of the social media groups, of true crime groups, and people were just selling the hell out of stuff. And I think back now that a lot of the stuff that was popping up then, it was pretty, there was a lot of really pretty rare stuff that was circulating back then that I didn't even really recognize at the time. But like, you say stuff like, I don't know, like Soul items, or Anthony Soul, or if you had like a Charles Ying origami, so a lot of those things that at the time I felt like, damn, man, there's a bunch of them out there, it kind of came in waves, and now you don't really see any of that kind of stuff anymore, and it's back to like just basic letters and a little bit of artwork. But there for a while, it was a big boom of like, everyone realized there's these groups, everyone was writing people, everyone was getting stuff and selling stuff, and it was kind of cool. but over time, man, I mean, you know me well enough anyway, because of the years that I've been buying and trading and stuff with you, that um it's just in this community of collecting, there is I would say a probably 20 people that are like extremely reliable and really good, reputable people, and that aren't going to put like greed over, uh, people and collecting. And then there's a whole group of people that are just really trying to make a quick buck and don't really care about the hobby itself. And you have that in every collecting field. But I personally, I have like a handful of people that I really even do any kind of dealing with, and then like the mainstream of collecting, I've been kind of away from that for a long time, because I just kind of keep low profile with a few people, and keep it fun. No one wants to go broke buying shit that has to do with serial killers. um so you have some items out there that are really significant, and they will always hold value and continue to grow in value. And then you have a lot of stuff that's just, it's just paper.
Worthless.
So
Yeah.
it's good. It's good having a group of people that I've made over the years that I really consider friends, outside of just a hobby, that I do consider friends, and keeping collecting fun in that sense.